So on the 28th of October, Tyler Creator put out his 8th studio album, Chromacopia, which was a big surprise. He's usually kept to a 2-year release cycle since his debut record, Bastard, with the exception of last year being a deluxe release to Call Me If You Get Lost. And from what the end of that era signified, it felt as though he was moving on from previously established traits and features of his old album releases and quirks within the track listing, which meant that when Chromacopia finally came out, I was very interested to see what was going to be the new direction going on from here. I think Tyler's a musician who never really tends to remain static in terms of the sound that he wants to cultivate on his albums, and I think Chromacopia is another example of that. The word evolution gets used a lot when talking about Tyler Creator's musical output over the course of the last 7 years, and I think there's no album in his discography that this applies more to than Chromacopia. It took me quite some time to unravel my thoughts and feelings on the entire album, which is partly why this took so long to make. As a result, I want to talk about every single song on the project because this album really blew me away. The opening track, Saint Chroma, does something I never would have expected after the extremely confident release that was Call Me If You Get Lost. It almost feels like we're being treated to doubt here and trepidation. We hear what sounds to be a pep talk from his mother, who is a continued force on this album, and I think her repeated presence is really appreciated. It just gives the album a really honest edge that I appreciate to it. And immediately we cut away from that to get into the song proper. The song proper being what we heard on the teaser to Chromacopia, which came out just about a week before the album did. When initially listening, it completely bewildered me. It gave me no idea as to what the sonic direction or artistic vision for this album would be. Now that I have the final product, this is easily one of his strongest opening tracks to any album he's ever made. From the production that manages both to be soft, varied, and ultra hard-hitting in its late stages, to the gorgeous guest vocals of Daniel Caesar. This is the kind of song that once I played it for the first time, I immediately wanted to play it again. Saint Chroma feels like the breaking of a cycle, and it starts off feeling as though we're finally being treated to a chink in the armor of his boundless confidence, and then we're reminded immediately again that that was an exceptionally wrong viewpoint for us as the listener to have, and I just was wowed out of the fourth dimension listening to this track. Saint Chroma is at a high contender for the single best song on this album. It is wondrous, it is impactful, and an absolute delight to hear. And we're just on the first song. Just from hearing this song alone, I was already prepared to call Chromacopia a good album. And thankfully, I still have an entire album to go. It's a song that tells us he believes in himself. It's a song that tells us he's heard the voices of all the people who supported him throughout his life and getting to this point. And as a listener, it just works. It's hard-hitting, it's dynamic, it's varied, and it's strong, exceptionally strong. And I think it sets us up with one of the strongest lines on this entire album, which is just, "Stop impressing the dead." Brilliant song. This song is ultra grimy, and it's absolutely great for that fact. Narratively, Ratata is a song on his success. He is more famous than anybody reasonably needs to be, and I think he's pretty happy about that. It's a fun song, just an unrelenting banger the whole way through. The flow, the energy, the production on the song is just in all the right places that it needs to be in, and it just works wonderfully for the song. He's gotten criticism over the previous couple albums that he's becoming too braggadocious. The last album felt like a victory lap. Listening to music like this, it just makes me think, so what really? He brags well, and it sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. Ratata is a hell of a lot of fun. It's funny too. Just kind of everything you want in a song, and it's a really interesting switch up from the previous song. But at the very end, we do get a bit of a switch. It's like something's unnerving him, like a persistent, unending itch. It's almost like he's going through some sort of parrot. This is an immediate switch up to the previous song. Noid is a song that deals with why it sucks to be famous. This was the album's lead and only single, And I think that that was a really interesting decision. It's far from the most radio friendly song, and it's not trying to be either. It deals with paranoia, that feeling of being followed, the loss of privacy that comes with having become ultra famous. And it's something that Tyler's personally spoken about in interviews and the nature of social media frenzies around celebrities. And I don't doubt that that's something that's been bugging him increasingly as his profile only just continues to grow. It also has an additional effect for me where the song is clearly designed to sound a little unnerving, a little not comfortable. But there's another angle to it that's making it more impactful for me. There's a really neat sample in this song that's a Zambian originated song that's sung in the language Chinyanja. And whilst I don't speak Chinyanja, I do speak a different Bantu language, is Xhosa. Now, while the two languages are not interchangeable, there are some similarities between the two. So much so that when listening to the sample, it's almost like there are words being said to me that nearly feel like sentences, that nearly feel like something fully formed that I'm just missing. That feeling of almost getting it, but not really, just adds to the uncertainty. And it's something personal for me that makes Noid hit. This is a great song. Easily one of the strongest songs on this album, and I don't think it's difficult to see why. Darling I has this really cool effect to it that reminds me of another song, Outkast's Heya, in the sense that the song is incredibly fun to listen to. And then you sit down and read what is actually being said and discussed here, and you realize it's really not too happy a situation that's being dealt with here. It's to the point that I've seen over the last couple of months cutesy couples social media posts using this song in the background when this is not the kind of song that you want accompanying that. Darling I deals with subject matter that is not new for him or any of his previous records, which is his history with relationships. The song particularly deals about his difficulties in remaining monogamous, that no matter how hard he tries or is focused on it, he just can't help continuing to fall in love with other people. It's a really ugly situation to talk about, especially considering that this song infers that there might have been just that one person, someone who could fully convince him to give up living that way, but it just doesn't work out. It's an absolutely harrowing story that is helped along by beyond gorgeous production and excellent singing from guest vocalist Tizo Touchdown, who just adds this edge to the song that I really appreciate. I think the harmonies that are displayed here are some of the best that he's ever done. It sounds great. The unending bouncy fun of the song's production, drums being a particular standout point here for me, juxtaposed against its lyrical content that's actually pretty sad, makes this like the type of song that just got me into a loop. Once I heard Darling I had to listen to Darling I again and again and again. It's been verging on 2 months now since I first heard the song, and every single listen just sounds all that more special to me. The opening words here from his mother, again, just stand out as brutally honest. And I feel like Tyler's being honest to himself and his partner on this song, how he understands the kind of person that he is. And it's not even that I think it's a promise that he's going to change, but this is the person that I am. It's like a conclusion, but not an altogether unhappy or sad one. Just it is the way that it is, helped out by a gorgeous song.
Hey Jane, I know my mom would be excited as hell.
Hey Jane is the immediate repercussions to his actions on the previous song. For wanting to live his life and be free, he gets stuck with a terrifying situation, being a father. And being a father in a manner that he did not intend, or being a father in a manner that he did not expect. You get the sense that the song is so deeply personal to him. And you can get from the writing here, which is, by the way, one of the strongest displays of his pen game I have seen in years. It's just so focused and honest, which is really interesting because this whole song kind of feels like a personal videotape or dialogue. It just works incredibly well, and you need that kind of focus and you need that kind of composure when you're dealing with a situation as not good as an unplanned pregnancy. You get the sense that Tyler's scared. You get the sense that the Jane in question is scared. You get the sense that Tyler criticizes himself. He criticizes himself massively for his previous cavalier attitude and thinking about what does that mean now? Can I step up to the plate as a father? Do I want to step up to the plate as a father? If I don't, what does that make me? What kind of person does that make me when I chose to live my life in this way? Not being sure about whether or not you want to commit to something as massive as that. It's not a fear I've personally experienced, and it's not one that I want to either. I think the writing throughout the song is accompanied really nicely by fairly simple production that just carries things through. This is a song about a story, a pretty personal story, and one whose conclusion is left almost open-ended by the end of the song. Do you want to go through with having this kid? Do you not want to go through with having this kid? Situations aren't ideal, but hey, at least it's you. Hey Jane is not a party song or a bouncy fun song, but it's a brilliant one. Just about every single song on this album is intensely personal, and I think I Killed You is no exception to that rule. And it's about something that you'll notice almost immediately for the vast majority of people you'll meet, their hair. And in particular, what it means to have a relationship with your hair as a Black American. In the US, natural hair, or Afro hair if you will, is an interesting journey, both for men and women. And it's difficult for a whole lot of people to want to be seen in the natural hairstyles. As a matter of fact, this song kind of ties into something that stood out to me the moment I saw this album cover. This is the first of Tyler's album covers where we can see his hair. In every other release of his, he's either wearing something that obscures it or is wearing a wig in Igor's case. But this is the first time we just see him for what he is. It's a weird journey because your hair is tied to who you are as a person. And I think it does that really, really well. On top of this persistent, thumping drum that just plays a huge part of the song, I think it works really nicely. I Killed You is one of the shortest songs on this album, just under 3 minutes. And so I think discussing the sum total of the song is equally to the point, but it's effective. And the very end of the song has acceptance effectively over who he is and his hair effectively. He stops saying I killed you, instead switching that to I could never kill you. You can't just scorch or bleach or denature or straighten your hair, just as you can't wipe out or clean who you are as a person. And I appreciated that. I might not be Black American, but I've had my struggles when it comes to hair and my own identity, and this is a pretty cool song to do that. Tyler's pretty open about how he considers this song, Judge Judy, his personal favorite off of Chromakopia, and I'm not surprised as to why he would have that. This is probably one of the sweetest sounding songs on the entire album. There's nothing thumping, hard-hitting, or relentless on the song. It's just a really gentle and sweet melody that's coming through the whole thing. Now, the song is really, really dorky in its delivery, and I'm more than fine with that. There's this preoccupation, especially as guys, on not coming off too cringy or overly sappy in romantic relationships. And this song really isn't trying to be that. It's emotional, it's just gushing with feelings, and I really like that. The sound of the song just accompanies another super personal story about a romantic relationship, and I think it's really beautiful. It's catchy, I like saying it, and the whole song takes a really bittersweet turn at the end. He kind of comes to an understanding why this relationship came to an end and how this person who was special to him, Judy, has likely passed away at the time he's reading her final messages. And instead of it being sung or sounding particularly sad, it's almost like a reminder to live life as it is right now. Want to make the most of living. The kind of thing that could bring someone to tears. And if you're certainly somebody who experienced that in your real life, I get why you could call this your favorite song. It's a pretty song, and pretty songs are really cool. I don't mind the sounds of intimacy that are woven throughout the song either. There's always this very masculine sense and urge to them on a lot of mainstream hip-hop releases, and this doesn't feel like that. It just feels like a really, really romantic expression. I'm happy that it's there. Again, with the dramatic changes between each song, Whilst Judge Judy is probably one of the sweetest sounding tracks on this album, Sticky is undeniably its most grimy and ultra filthy, and I absolutely adore that it does. It features a bunch of different guest rappers from Sexy Red, Glorilla, and Lil Wayne, and their verses are short, impactful, and absolutely punchy. When I saw that this was to be the song in the track list, I was terrified how it would sound. I am a massive fan of how the song just works. There's this unending energy that just goes through and punches like you want to hear the next person. I've seen edits on social media where people just add on verses from other rappers or just feel the need to jump in and have fun to the song, and I think Sticky just works for it. I believe at last check this is currently the most streamed song out of any of the songs on Chromakopia, and I'm not surprised by it. Production works, the trumpets work. This song is fun. This song is dirty, and the song is not trying to be deep or meaningful in any way, and I appreciate that it's here. Tyler has usually been exemplary in picking out features in a way that just works for what is needed at the moment, and Sticky is another awesome example of that. This is one of the most unendingly fun songs on the album, and definitely a song that I would check out even if you're not a huge fan of the rest of his work.
Sad story.
What a song. What an incredible song. It feels like you could end the album right here and you would still feel narratively fulfilled. Take Your Mask Off is, like I Killed You, something that deals with identity, something that deals with who you are as a person. And desperately, he wants the listener, anyone who's lent an ear to this album, to take off their mask, to stop hiding. For whatever reason that is, if it is to put up fronts that a person appears harder than they actually are, if it's to justify religion for some choices and opinions that are questionable, but you hide behind the guise of that. This album cover very, very boldly features a mask on his face, and he is reaching out and telling you on the song to take it off. Just a wish. I hope you find yourself, and I hope you can take your mask off. It's an incredible message, and it's something that I think almost anyone could go through. And it's just helped along massively by the sounds here. I think Chromakopia is one of the records where he has experimented the most in terms of piano chords, and I think it's come through really, really nicely on the song. The way harmonies are arranged too, thank you very much to backing vocalist Daniel Caesar again and Latoya Williams, absolute ear candy. His rapping is on point here, but that chorus and the singing here just works in a way I can't even describe. Take Your Mask Off is, like I said, it feels like it could end the entire album. I'm glad there's more album after this, but the song is special. And it is particularly special because of the person that he is criticizing most in this song. Not someone who has wronged him, not even us as the listeners, but himself. The final portion of the song is maybe the most ultra personal and hypercritical he has ever been on himself in a song. I'll put up the lyrics right now on screen in order for you to read if you've not heard the song. Once you do, listen to that song. There is an incredible amount of maturity and focus that is needed to present and look at yourself in such a harsh manner. He really puts himself under the butcher's knife at the end of the song. And I think that's a level of clarity, and I think that's a level of honesty I never would have imagined from Tyler in previous years. Tyler's previous albums are special to me, immensely so. But I think there is an argument to be made that his previous output could come off as maybe somewhat vain in its subject matter. And I think that is undone massively throughout Chromakopia, and no song does it more than this one. This level of understanding of your own flaws and presenting them in an ugly, unrefined manner is just something that stuns me even now. Immaculate song. Considering on the maturity that this album continues to handle really, really well, this track, Tomorrow, deals with aging and getting older, and what does that mean in your personal capacity. Now, Tyler, if I'm not mistaken, at time of recording is about 33 years old, which isn't old, but bear in mind, when he released his very, very first project, which, if I'm not mistaken, The Odd Future Tape Volume 1, that was 2008. I was 4 years old when that tape came out. I'm 20 now. It's been some time that he's been in the public eye, and I'm sure over that period of time the idea of continuing on in music, evolving in fashion, what about giving it all up to raise a family, get married, that's a difficult set of circumstances that come with aging. Things that I can't even begin to understand at my age that I'm sure he probably does now. Living and getting older is something that happens to all of us, but there's a difference between talking about it now and then it actually happening to you, thinking about the future. And I don't know that the song exactly confronts that sentiment all too much. It's like he's going to get to the issue tomorrow. It's not a fear per se, but it sounds like something that bothers him. It almost feels like the sentiment of the song is not that it doesn't matter, but that we'll worry about it tomorrow. Is it an altogether healthy way of dealing with that? I don't know. They're not my personal circumstances, but they got explained really well. This is a pretty low-key sounding track. I really like it. And it's a song that is very, very much Chromakopia because this is inherently tied to age. And I don't think this is something that Tyler 10 or even 5 years ago would have had the knowledge to properly voice himself on. And I think Tomorrow's a really cool song for delving into that face first. Thought I Was Dead, for me, can be summed up pretty much in one word: get back. And it feels like a get back song. Over the last couple of years, especially last year, when Tyler did not release a full-length album, the way people in online spaces were talking about it was like, is he pursuing other ventures first? Is he taking an elevator break from music? Where's Tyler the Creator? We haven't heard enough about him. Where's Tyler the Creator? Where's Tyler? Where's Tyler? Where's Tyler? And this song just kind of addresses that in the sense of, what, I don't drop a full album one time and now all of a sudden this makes people think I was dead. This song addresses that, and it's so hard-hitting. The militaristic vigor is back, and I think it is harder and tighter fitting on the song than ever. I think this is one of the strongest rapping performances probably on the entire album, and the feature from Schoolboy Q just works. Very nice work from Santa Gold as well. The song just comes together really nicely. It's just on that one repeating point. I'm not going anywhere, and I didn't disappear, and it sounds great. It's a hard-hitting track, and it's the kind of song that you just can't sit still anymore when you're listening to it. You just want to get up, move your head, move your body. It's a great song. And for that reason, I don't necessarily think there's that much emotional depth in the song compared to previous songs in the album, but it makes up for just being an absolute delight to listen to. Thought I Was Dead is the 11th song in an 11 song streak, and it's only going to continue from here onwards. Like Him is maybe the single most heartbreaking song on the entire album. It deals with one very particular point: his father. And his father has been brought up frequently over the years, never in a positive light. And as he's aging now, he has to ask the question, do I look like my father now? Do I look like him? Do I look like that man? As somebody who's never had to experience being raised by a single mother, I struggled viciously to find where I felt emotionally about the song. There's no grandstanding or even the same kind of venom that has existed in his previous works when discussing his father. It's this vulnerability that is just absolutely gorgeous to see. And how could anybody take that easily? How could you face the reality of now resembling someone you've had so many questions for so long? It's a feeling I don't understand, and I don't think it's one that he did initially either. It doesn't help that Like Him on a musical level is probably the most gorgeous composition on this entire record. Everything just slides into place in this immaculate manner. Extremely special shout out to featured vocalist Lola Young on this song. Her singing during the chorus and throughout the song make this probably the best song on Chromakopia, but one of the single strongest pieces of music he's ever made. Like Him is a touching, heartbreaking song that when you listen to it just makes you think and wonder, wow, truly wow. And as we get to the massive height of emotions that are experienced as this song ends, it all falls down into one of the most deeply painful moments on this entire album to listen to. It's another spoken word bit from his mother, and it's but one that deals with the fact that his father wanted initially to be a part of his life. How that possibly could have made him feel, I would not be able to guess. And as a listener, especially somebody who's listened to Tyler's work for so long, heard the way in which he's viewed his father for so long, this completely starstruck me. The ending of this song and the entire song in general is one of the finest pieces of work he's ever put out. Brilliant, gorgeous, none of them quite work here when talking about this song. As somebody who doesn't relate to it, why do I feel so much then when listening to it? In perhaps the single most unserious transition ever conceived on a hip hop album, we open up on Balloon. Balloon is completely devoid of the weight and severity that was on the previous song, and I'm happy for it. Balloon's fun, bouncy, a little goofy, a little wacky, and it's an absolutely great time. There's just some fun bars being written here. There's some interesting production that's just light and pleasant to listen to. It's almost like a palate cleanser after the emotional juggernaut that was Like Him. I'm grateful that it's here. I would understand if the placement of the song maybe feels a little jarring for somebody recovering from the just complete waterfall of the previous song to this one. It feels like a tonal whiplash. And I'm somebody who likes tonal whiplashes, but I would get if that happens to unnerve you. But I'm also additionally grateful for the existence of Balloon, because it happens to feature one hell of a performance from the song's feature, Doechii. Doechii is somebody who's been gaining a hell of a lot of acclaim and focus throughout 2024, and I think this song is yet another example of that. The dynamic between Tyler and, if you haven't seen their live performance of this song at the recently concluded Camp Flog Gnaw, do so. The song's great. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and she is on point for the entire things. I am aware that there are certain bars that maybe don't go super well for some people, but they went super well for me. Balloon's great. All of the features throughout this album were absolutely stunning, and I'm grateful that I got to hear all of them. Balloon's yet another one that I enjoyed. And now the ending, the 14th and final track, I Hope You Find Your Way Home. And it's interesting. I've said a bunch of times that some other songs could have ended the Chromakopia narratively, and it still would have made sense. But I think because it ends with this one, it feels complete. After so many songs about facing who you are identity-wise, coming to the root of all of your problems, facing your insecurities, facing the way you age, changing the way you were before. So much change, so much brutal and forced change. This song just kind of feels like the ending to all of that, the final step in all of this. And maybe that final step isn't easier to take. It's one where you can land after that fact. It's like you've gone through the change that you needed to. You faced all that you need to. So after all the travels, you're back home. I think this feels like an ending, not just to Chromakopia, but also to Call Me If You Get Lost, but also to Igor, and very similar to how I feel the ending of Flower Boy felt. This, at present recording, is, I suppose, figuratively the last song in his discography, for the time being right now. It just kind of displays everything that Tyler has become up until this point. There's some good rapped verses. There are some good rapped verses with an ego on them, and there's really sweet piano in the background. A lot of it's talking about himself. A lot of things could be applied to another person, and as we eventually get to the very, very end of it, we hear the last words of his mother again, just talking about how she's proud of him, proud of everywhere that he's been, proud of everything that he's become. And I think it's incredibly touching that people were allowed to hear this, that people were allowed to experience this. How many people could apply this to their lives? How many people could be touched and heard? It's a fun note to end the song on. Not altogether happy, not altogether sad. It's just the ending, and you don't know what comes on from here. I think Find Your Way Home was the right way to close out an album as great as Chromakopia. Chromakopia is now likely my second favorite of Tyler's albums. This album is incredible. It's dense, it's varied, it's dynamic. It's a wonderful experience. It's hard-hitting when it needs to be. It's sweet where it needs to be. I said as much earlier in the text, but I don't think there's a single song on this album that I don't appreciate for its role here. Every song here is good or better, frequently great, and sometimes immaculate. Chroma is a strong, strong album, and if it's any indication for the direction that Tyler's going to be going through in future years, I'm immensely excited to see what will become of him. Chromakopia has proved to become one of my absolute favorite of his works. One of my favorite works ever. So yeah, it's a good album. It's a really, really good album. Looking at it numbers wise, I'd probably say Chromakopia is like a 93. This was a brilliant, brilliant release. And thank you for watching. Sorry for disappearing so long. University just kinda exploded. I want to continue making more videos. The next one, now that the year is coming to a close, is probably going to be about talking about my favorite releases of the year. Chromakopia is going to be on that list, full disclosure right now, but I want to talk to you about another set of albums. Maybe 16 records overall that I think were pretty impactful. I'll finish that up and, well, you'll see it when you see it. Take care.